Hello everyone. So this video is for the strategic management subject, and we are now on the second lesson, which is about the strategic operations management. So for this lesson, we will discuss the following topics. First is the growth and portfolio theory, the rise of marketing management, the rise of Japanese-oriented management style, and the competitive edge. So for this lesson, at the end of the lesson, you should be able to first relate the evolution of strategic management to the current situation, review the development of management within the strategic framework, and discover important people who help in the development of strategic management. So before we start on the first topic, we will just briefly discuss the history of strategic management. Strategic management originated sometime in the 1950s and 1960s. And in 1957, Philip Zelsnik introduced the matching of the organization's internal factors and the external environmental circumstances. So this is the prelude to what is now called SWOT analysis by Learned Andrews et al. From Harvard Business School. One of the most influential pioneers is Alfred Chandler. He recognized the importance of coordinating the various aspects of management under one umbrella strategy, which is strategic management today. In 1962, he made strategy and structure, which showed that a long-term, properly coordinated strategy is important to give a company the needed structure, direction, and focus. While in 1965, Igor Anson came up with a new vocabulary pertaining to strategic management. So in his book, Corporate Strategy, he developed the concept of gap analysis, which is now translated into mission vision statements. It explained the current situation of a company and where it would like to be in the future. He also conceptualized a strategy grid, which illustrated market penetration strategies, product development strategies, market development strategies, and diversification strategies. And in 1985, Ellen Earl Kaffer summarized her thoughts on strategic management theory. She stressed that strategic management should be aligned with the business environment. She also believed that it is complex, thereby should allow an organization to adapt to change. Strategic management also affects the organization in providing direction where the company wants to be. It involves a process of strategy formulation and implementation. She also believed that it is both planned and unplanned. An organization should be ready for both situations. Strategic management is also done in an overall corporate strategy as well as specific business units. Lastly, strategic management is both conceptual and analytical thought processes. For the topic 1, which is about the growth and portfolio theory, these are some of the theories about the strategic management. And first is about the profit impact of marketing strategies, or PIMS. PIMS was a continuing study on strategies that started in 1960. So it spanned 19 years of learning the effects of market share. So this attempt started with General Electronics or GE, then moved to Harvard in the early 1970s. Then it moved to Strategic Planning Institute in the late 1970s. By that time, companies had now developed a link between profitability and strategy. The growing interest on profitability, market share, and strategy led to the awareness on growth strategies. There were discussions on his horizontal and vertical integration, diversification, franchises, mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, and organic growth. Another study led to the competition and the environment through market dominance strategies. While a bigger market share led to higher profits, Schumacher 1973, Wu, Cooper 1982, and Levinson 1984 proved otherwise, and later Traverson 2002 with what is now called a niche marketing. So creating a niche can result to a very high returns. So the niche marketing is about targeting a specific segment of the market. Kung sino yung gusto mong kailangan identified mo kung sino yung gusto mong target market. More and more diversified companies required new techniques in management. One of the CEOs addressed this problem is Alfred Sloan of General Motors or GM. So GM was decentralized into strategic business units, all semi-autonomous but with centralized support functions. We also have another valuable concept in strategic management, which is the portfolio theory. So this theory developed by Harry Moskowitz. This propagated the concept that a broad portfolio of financial assets could reduce risk exposure of companies. In 1970s, other theorists extended it to operating division portfolios. An operating division is also called strategic business unit. Each has its own revenue, costs, objectives, and strategies. And the last one is about the BCG strategy or the Boston Consulting Group. In the early 1970s, BCG examines how a business unit performs and what it contributes to the organization in terms of revenues. General Electronic retaliated with the GA multifactorial model. So this expanded the BCG model. The second topic is about the rise of marketing management. The 1970s saw the rise of marketing orientation, tracing its beginnings. Production orientation started at the height of capitalism. The key requirement is a product of high quality. A product is produced, then sold to consumers. In the 1950s and 1960s, sales orientation was conceptualized. The concentration was the art of selling. After product is produced, a high caliber sales force can sell it. In the 1970s, Theodore Levitt theorized that business should start with the customers instead of producing the product first before selling it. A company should find out what they want and produce it for them. So this is now called marketing orientation. Several terms were used to reflect a market-oriented concept. They were customer intimacy, customer orientation, marketing philosophy, customer focus, and customer driven, among others. So this is what we are now doing in the market. Before we produce the product, we make a survey to the target segment or the target market of what kind of product we will going to produce. The third topic is the rise of Japanese-oriented management style. So during the 70s, they saw the rise of a Japanese industry as well. So Japanese firms surpassed American and European companies, including steel, watches, cameras, automobiles, and electronics. The success of Japanese was explained in these practices. First, there was a high employee morale, dedication, and loyalty. Costs were lower, including labor costs. Government policies favor businesses. After the Second World War, Japan became a highly productive and capital-intensive organization. Exports prevailed, and there was superior quality control, such as total quality management or TQM. These successful strategies were further honed by the theory of W. Edwards Deming. In 1981, Richard Pascale and Anthony Atos proved that despite the success of Japanese, there was still something missing. In addition, further analysis showed that the cost structure was actually higher. In the book of Pascale and Atos, The Art of Management, they claimed that the reason for the success of the Japanese was their superior management techniques. So this theory is better known as the 7S. So the composition of 7S are the following: the strategy, structure, systems, skills, staff, style, and subordinate goals or shared values. At that time, American companies were not yet ready to embrace the role of corporate culture, shared values, and beliefs in the success of an organization. So Pascale also believed that Japanese businesses had long-term plans in contrast with American companies. Kenichi Omai, head of McKinsey and Company Tokyo office, released the book The Mind of the Strategist in America, which was originally published in Japan in 1975. He reiterated the strategy should not be too analytical, but should be more of a creative art. It is a combination of intuition and a flexibility. This was not the case of American management, where there was always a step-by-step process and procedures were followed to the latter. In 1982, Tom Peters and Robert Waterman released In Search of Excellence, which was response to Ohama's book. They studied 62 companies and rated them in a 6 performance criteria. Must be above 50% in 4 out of the 6 criteria performance metrics for 20 years. So based on this study, 43 companies passed the test and came up with the 8 keys to success. So first is the customer focus. The company should know and understand the customers. Action-oriented, the company should implement the strategies, not just mere paperwork and plans without action. Entrepreneurship, the company should exude an entrepreneurial spirit, innovate and create. Simplicity. Managers should be simple and should not make things too complex. Stick to what the company knows best. The company should continue in the field where it excels. Value-oriented management. Management advocates corporate values throughout the organization. People-oriented. The company should respect and motivate its people, and in turn, they will be productive at work. Centralized and decentralized. The company centralizes its control, but also allows autonomy in each business unit. J. Raffel, 1994, discussed the importance of transformation of knowledge from various cultures to a management style to compete globally. The Japanese style Kaizen had not been successful in the United States unless it was modified to suit American culture. So for the Kaizen, we have this continuous improvement cycle, which starts with identify the problem, analyze problem, develop solution, implement solution, analyze result, standardize solution, and get the employees involved. For the lesson 4, which is about the competitive edge, Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahalad introduced the strategic architecture concept. Part of this theory is a core competency. It is a detail of what the company has or can do better than its competitors. Dave Packard and Bill Howlett conceptualized management by walking around. Employees of Howlett and Packard visited not only customers but also employees and suppliers. They were building a strategic relationship based with key people who can be a source of viable strategies for the company. The MBWA was popularized in 1985 by the book of Tom Peters and Nancy Austin. Japanese managers retaliated with a similar concept which originated in Honda, which is called the 3Gs. We have the Genba, Genbutsu, and Genjitsu, which are translated to actual place, actual thing, and actual situation. Management guru Michael Porter introduced several concepts like the 5 forces analysis, generic strategies, the value chain, and many more. And the example of the 5 forces introduced by Michael Porter is, as you can see in the diagram, this is for the company to gain sustainable competitive advantage. So bargaining power to suppliers, rivalry among existing competitors, threats of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers, and threat of new entrants. In 1993, John Kay improved the value chain concept by putting a financial touch. Adding value means the difference between the market value of outputs and the cost of inputs divided by the firm's net output. So he claimed that a company should have 3 capabilities, which includes innovation, a reputation, and organizational structure. The positioning theory was popularized by Al Ries and Jack Trout in the book Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind in 1979. So this means crafting a strategy that would make the brand or product in the minds of the consumers. We also have other strategies discovered by our great economists. These are in 1992, J. Barney discussed that a strategy is a product of resources such as human technology and suppliers and combined in unique ways. Michael Hammer and James Champy, on the other hand, championed re-engineering, which involves the organization of a firm's assets around whole processes rather than tasks. Another set of theories advocated consumer service as the key to an organization's success. These are James Hesketh, Earl Sasser, William Davidow, Len Slingsinger, A. Paraguaman, Len Berry, Jane Kingman, and a lot more of the economists. They provided a fishbone diagramming, service charting, total consumer service, o yung tinatawag natin PCS, the service profit chain, service gap analysis, service encounter, strategic service vision, service mapping, and service themes. Theorists like W. Edwards Deming, Joseph Juran, A. Kearney, Philip Crosby, and Armand Feinbaum developed quality improvement techniques like total quality management, continuous improvement. We have the lean manufacturing, the Six Sigma, and return on quality. Process management developed techniques like product quality management, the sequence of steps enable the company to eliminate inefficiencies and make the process more effective. Ari de Gaius, 1997, identified 4 key traits of companies that have survived for the last 50 years. So the first is the sensitivity to the business environment. It is the ability to be attuned with the forces in the environment. Cohesion and identity. It is the ability to build a company with shared vision and purpose. Tolerance and decentralization. It is the ability to build relationships among the employees and strategic business units. Conservation financing. It is the ability to handle financial matters well. So Jordan Lewis used the term alliance strategies. He considered distributors, suppliers, firms in related industries, and even competitors as strategic partners. The relationship should endure and be characterized by mutual respect and trust. In 1970, Alvin Toffler set a trend in strategic management with his book Future Shock. It was followed by the third wave in 1980. He believed in the power of making the change in order to survive. So he did not succumb to complacency and instead explained what change can do to company to survive. Peter Drucker in 1968 coined the age of discontinuity, and in 2000, Gary Hamel discussed strategic decay, which believed that changes are needed no matter how powerful existing strategies are. In 1978, we have the Derek Abel described strategic windows, stressing the importance of time in both the start and end of a particular strategy. In 1983, Noel Tichy and Richard Pascale in 1990 propagated the importance of company to invest itself. While in 1996, Art Klimmer claimed that a company needs to be foster a corporate culture to initiate the change. Adam Slavovsky theorized strategic anticipation to spot emerging patterns of changes in the industry and in the environment. While in 1997, Clayton Christensen and Kees van de Heijden developed their own strategies on change. And in 1998, Henry Mitzberg developed strategic planning with 5 types of strategies. So these are the strategy as plan, direction, guide, course of action, the strategy as ploy, a maneuver intended to outdo a competitor, a strategy as pattern, a consistent pattern of a past behavior, strategy as position, the location of brands, products, or companies within the boundaries of consumers, strategy as perspective, determined by a master strategist. In 1999, Konstantinos Markides discussed strategy formation and implementation as continuous. J. Moncrief stressed strategy dynamics, a combination of planned and unplanned strategies. While chaos theory deals with turbulent systems. Henry Michberg realized that senior managers deal with unpredictable situations in 1973. On the other hand, John Potter studied the activities of 15 executives and studied how they work and make strategic decisions. Daniel Eisenberg, in his study of senior managers, found that their decisions are mostly based on intuition. In 1977, Abraham Zalesnik identified the difference between managers and leaders. Leaders are considered as visionaries, those who inspire. Managers are concerned with processes, plans, and forms. So are you a leader or a manager? So this actually ends our topic of the lesson 2, the history of the strategic management. If you have any questions or concerns, you may chat me on Google Classroom or in our group chat. Before this video end, we have a short activity to make an extensive research on the Japanese style and compare it to the American style of management. Present the pros and cons of each style. The research should also include the following: the people management skills, leadership styles, planning and communication, organization, and control. So for the output, you will create a short presentation video for this research of the comparison between Japanese style and American style management. At least or at most 5 minutes. So hindi po dapat na mag-pass ng 5 minutes yung video nyo. Okay? Thank you for listening to this lecture. See you again next time. Bye, everyone.